replacement windows. And down there we have the retractable screens and awnings, plus hurricane protection. Let's talk more about those gutters. And to do that, we bring in Kevin. He's the owner, he's the expert. Why Gutter Helmet?
Well, Gutter Helmet is truly the only maintenance-free product. It lets the trash and debris go on the ground. The water wraps around and goes inside. Unlike filters, they sit on top of the gutters, and the trash and debris build up on top of filters, which requires maintenance. With Gutter Helmet, we're going to keep you off the ladder, the most dangerous thing in your garage. With Gutter Helmet, you'll never clean your gutters again. So get off the ladder and put on the helmet. Gutter Helmet.
Get a free estimate at gutterhelmetofnorthflorida.com. You can also call 904-762-7779 or visit the showroom on St. John's Bluff Road in Jacksonville.
Empower a future, inspire a dream. It's a bold but simple mission for the Jacksonville Police Athletic League known as Jax PAL. Help the next generation of kids in Jacksonville shape a brighter future. Their after-school programs, teenage leadership programs. There's community outreach.
This has been just an awesome opportunity to be out here with my colleagues and do something good for the community. It's really been an interesting opportunity to just see everybody work together in a way that we don't normally in the office.
And there's sports. There are also ways you can help the next generation with a donation of any kind. Just visit jaxpal.org to get more information. Empower a future, inspire a dream with Jax PAL.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, you can get a free Connecticut reverse osmosis system with the purchase of a Connecticut Premier softener. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our...
On a post-game edition of Club 904, yikes. If you're watching this live, you don't want to look at that lower third underneath me and see that final score. Los Angeles Rams 35, your Jacksonville Jaguars 7 in their annual trip across the pond to play in London. We are not here to break this game down, folks. It is 9:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You've had to marinate on this one for almost 12 hours now. No, we are heading into the bye week, and we are workshopping ideas as to what your Jacksonville Jaguars can do over the next 2 weeks to right the ship, to get back to where we saw them in the first 5 weeks of the NFL season, off the schneid, and perhaps actually create lasting change in Jacksonville FLA. Is she crazy? Maybe. Let's have some fun. Welcome into a post-game edition of Club 904. I am your host, Mia O'Brien. We are live and streaming on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 channel. No Brent tonight. I think he's either asleep or he's making his way back from London. Didn't even want to bother him after he had to sit through, yes, a 35-7 Jaguars loss. Matthew Stafford's first game as a Los Angeles Ram in which he threw 5 touchdowns comes against his former offensive coordinator in Liam Cohen. Like I said off the top, we are not going to go back and review this one. Outside of looking at what occurred today, what it means long-term for your Jaguars, what needs to be fixed. As you can see, flying solo, so we are going to appreciate any and all Q&A. I already see the YouTube chat is fired up. If you're watching on Twitch, if you're watching on Twitter, make sure you leave a comment, you leave a quote or idea as well. Get in on the conversation because we're going to have some fun workshopping this one tonight. I know even more of you are listening to this on demand, which of course you can listen to Club 904 on demand on YouTube or in podcast form, wherever you get your podcast. Just head on over to the Action Sports Jacks channel, whether that's Spotify, Apple, Amazon Podcasts. I don't even know if people are still listening there, but anyway, shout out to Amazon. Point being, I know it's not easy to be sitting here 9 hours after a disappointing Jaguars loss, easily the most disappointing of the 2025 season, and talk about it. But I think it's important to have taken some time to debrief, to watch the Indianapolis Colts apparently be the best team in the National Football League since the days of the Niners in the 80s. And in turn, say, what do the Jaguars do here? Where do they go from here? Can this be fixed in just 2 weeks' time? And does it actually need fixing? And so the goal for tonight is to not just look back at the abomination, but it's to look at where we go from here. And so I've taken some tweets. I've brought them into the chat. And by the chat, I mean the podcast. So we're going to review some of your ideas that you guys have submitted to me, some that you don't realize that I screenshotted, but we're going to bring them to the forefront. And of course, we're going to answer your questions live here on Club 904. You know what? Let me hear what you guys have to say before I give you my 7 ideas for the Jaguars heading into their bye week. First and foremost, Connor says, nope, that's another friend who says that he's got some ideas. Let's see who else we've got. We've got Hef's in the chat. Hef, of course, is saying to run the ball. Bradley says that I know that with the last 2 losses, I can't confidently say we can beat the Chargers, Broncos, or even split with the Colts. Callie Jag says Josh Hines Allen, who I haven't heard his name in over a year. Man, oh man, you guys are fired up here tonight. Well, we're going to answer your questions. We're going to workshop this. This is a safe space, as it says in the description on YouTube. And so in turn, we're gonna work through this one together. But first, let me pull this one up because this kind of sums up what the goal of tonight's show is. And again, flying solo, so appreciate it.
It was everything we said we didn't want.
Just kidding. We'll get to Liam Cohen here in just a bit. Clay, friend of mine in Jags Twitter land. Jags bye week to-do list. Make Travis Hunter wide receiver 1, replace Andrew Wingard, replace Cam Little, trade for a rotational edge, and fire Edgar Bennett, the wide receivers coach. While some of that may be a little dramatic, some of it is not. And it's actually where I want to start. And I see plenty of you guys in the chat, plenty of you guys who are subscribed to the O'Brien NFL Notebook have also submitted this. And so we'll hit it head on. Yes, I do believe that the offense will run through Travis Hunter the next time we see the Jaguars on an NFL playing field in Las Vegas on November 2nd against the Las Vegas Raiders, who had 3 total first downs today. So I'm not saying, but I'm saying it's rough all over right now, folks. You may not like this idea of feeding Travis Hunter on offense. You may not like this idea of he needs to be the featured player on offense because could that take away from his defensive snaps? But ultimately, and I've hinted at this in the O'Brien Notebook, I've hinted at this with you guys online as well. That's what this front office wants. They would like to see Travis Hunter more involved. I think many of you listening to this podcast right now would like to see Travis Hunter more involved on offense. Why? Well, let's start with this. He hasn't dropped the ball, at least in the last 3 games, comparatively to 9 drops in 7 weeks for the supposed number 1 wide receiver for this team, and Brian Thomas Jr. We'll get to him here in just a second. He was their second best blocking wide receiver by week 2 of his rookie campaign. Oh, and by the way, you could argue in terms of his ability to go over the middle of the field, he has been the most physical wide receiver, most reliable wide receiver that they have had. And what defines a number 1 wide receiver, a number 1 option, is the ability to play all 3 wide receiver positions. That's where things get a little tricky with Travis Hunter because, yes, right now he is only being taught the F. He is only being taught the slot position. that makes things a little tricky when the idea is, well, Travis Hunter stretched the field at Colorado. Can't he go long? If I heard Kurt Warner, if I heard Rich Eisen, if I heard one more commentator over the last 3 weeks say, you got to let him stretch the field like he did at Colorado. You could stretch the field out of the slot, not to the extent you do at the X or the Z. The problem is that the Jaguars were banking on having Brian Thomas Jr. and De'Ami Brown perform, BTJ at a number one wide receiver level and De'Ami Brown at a comparable healthy level, so that they could create more opportunities to get Travis Hunter in space underneath. And that has not panned out. And so in turn, as James Coleman ran through on Tuesday's edition of the pod, the idea of, do you just call out a spot and say, Travis, run to this spot and come on back? And there was one moment, and I'm curious, YouTube chat, what you guys think. There was one moment in this game where it looked like Travis Hunter and Trevor Lawrence were talking off to the side on the field together, and they just kind of were like, go down there, go down there. And so that's where I say you're going to have to come up with some sort of workaround, because independent of the fact that he is the number 2 overall pick, he is your most reliable target right now, outside of Parker Washington, who also had a drop today, which, if you remember, he had 2 drops against the Houston Texans. And so I think that ultimately the Jaguars are going to have to find ways to get Travis Hunter involved in the same ilk that they did in the second half of this game. I also think that De'Ami Brown returning kicks was fascinating for a litany of reasons. And we'll get more clarification from Liam Cohen tomorrow when he will meet the media in the late afternoon on Zoom here back in Jacksonville. But I thought initially I see De'Ami Brown back there as the returner, and my first thought is, okay, this is going to be a Travis defensive back day because he's going to be marking Devontae Adams. Okay, it is what it is. Cool. And then Travis Hunter played 0 defensive snaps in the first half. De'Ami Brown, by the way, played just 31% of the offensive snaps. So that's another note to file away. And that's where my brain starts, the wheels start moving. And I say, okay, and if Travis Hunter played 86% of the offensive snaps, perhaps they are moving him into a more, not just featured role, but he is going to play more of the boundary. I don't know if he's learned it yet or not. And so you're operating with a boundary wide receiver out of the slot. So a lot of slot fade for the fans of the slot fade out there, I guess, is what we're going to be seeing. I think you saw a lot of overs, though, from Travis, and a lot of the deep middle of the field stuff that, quite frankly, I went back and watched Brian Thomas Jr.'s tape from last year, and that's where he was succeeding. And so then what do you do with 7? And so that brings me to some more of your tweets that I stole off the internet here on this fine Sunday evening. This one is from the OL guy. For Travis Hunter to develop and work as intended and play both ways, BTJ was supposed to be the guy. At this point, it's clearly not the case. So you either make Hunter your number 1 full-time wide receiver, or you go get a guy to be the number 1 while 7 figures this ish out. Otherwise, it will be a mess. And I would agree with that sentiment, because ultimately, the question becomes, if De'Ami Brown and BTJ were supposed to clear out space for Travis Hunter, let alone take defenders away from Travis Hunter so that he could capitalize on his opportunities, and they're not doing that, then you got to rework things. You have to be open to moving things around. And by the way, Liam Cohen, when he was in Tampa, said that they needed that bye week to reassess. And part of that was injuries, the significant season-ending injury to Chris Godwin. But I think ultimately a lot of it was reevaluating, hey, we have Bucky Irving. Hey, we can run the ball. Hey, by the way, we're going to circle back to that here later in just a little bit. In case you missed this one, oh boy, catchable targets over the middle of the field to Brian Thomas Jr. have a minus 17.1% completion percentage over expected this season. That is the second worst of any pass catcher in the National Football League. As Taj Smith says, need some positive regression there eventually. I don't know if you're going to get it, Taj. I hate to break it to you. I truly don't know. And so I've seen it floated online by more than one of you. Would you trade Brian Thomas Jr. for Quinnen Williams with some pick swaps thrown in there at this time? This regime does not act rashly. To some of you, the Tyson Campbell trade may have felt rash, but ultimately there were several players who the Jaguars have been taking calls on and have been intrigued in potentially moving since they arrived in January, February. And so I don't think that was a sudden conversation with Andrew Berry, the GM of the Cleveland Browns, and all of a sudden Tyson Campbell is on the move, who had a pick six, by the way, but okay, it took 14 minutes to get into that. Anyway, that's why I don't believe that this regime will be willing to move off of Brian Thomas Jr. so early. They have been concerned since as early as week 3, because week 2, it was, we're not worried. He's a gamer. It's one bad game. And then by week 3, the temperature had turned up a bit. And the temperature is still raised even after a little bit of a bounce back against the Seattle Seahawks, a little bit of a bounce back against the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. And so while I don't believe they would deal him at this point, he's really giving them reason to consider it, especially when we get to some of the other needs the Jaguars have that they could potentially could address here during this bye week. Last note on Travis Hunter playing wide receiver. This regime is committed to the long-term picture. I saw some of you guys debating this online as well today. Their plan was he's going to learn the slot rookie year because BTJ is going to open things up for him. And then he's going to learn the other positions in the offseason because he's also learning a defensive playbook while he's learning to play the F position. You can't completely remake this wide receiver room in 2 weeks. I do believe that this wide receiver room will be remodeled in the offseason. But with Brian Thomas Jr. being a liability, you don't want to waste the talents of Travis Hunter. And so ultimately, he needs to be on the field on offense, which brings me to my number 2 idea to fix your Jacksonville Jaguars. And then I'll take a look at some of your comments and questions because we'll get to some of your ideas as well. I also think that Travis Hunter needs to start at corner. Now, when I say that, it's similar to what they're running, but with more intention. Again, when I saw De'Ami Brown lined up at returner, I said, oh, Travis must be trailing Davante Adams today. Travis Hunter did not play a defensive snap in the first half again, folks. Didn't really make a whole heck of a lot of sense. And then suddenly in the second half, he's man-marked with Davante Adams. And would you look at that? He got a pass breakup. John Shipley reported this one. There are just 5 players in the modern era who have recorded a touchdown and a PBU in the same game, or 6 players, excuse me. And the other 5 that recorded that PBU, that was on a Hail Mary situation. So Travis Hunter is the first player in modern NFL history to record an actual defensive PBU while also recording a touchdown as a wide receiver. It's incredible, and I believe he is at his best when he is on the football field consistently. You're going to have to live with a lot of the rookie mistakes. There's going to be a learning curve. He's going to have mistakes here and there because, yes, as some of you have also pointed out, I understand his understanding of the position, both wide receiver and corner, not nuanced, thanks to the Big 12 in Colorado. Sorry, Dion. It's the reality of the situation. And so I know that for some of you, this idea is scary, that you could just throw him out there and play every single snap. But I believe he is at his best and he finds rhythm when he does that. So what would I do? In base, fine. You want to still play Jordan Lewis and Buster Brown as your 2 outside corners because Dennis Gardick comes in as the Sam linebacker? Fine. Okay, cool. Fine with that. Unless, of course, you're going against the Seattle Seahawks and they're a max protect and 3 tight end sets. And I digress. Point being, if you want to conserve him there, fine. But as soon as you introduce a second outside corner into the mix and bring Jordan Lewis into the slot, that is where we need to see Travis Hunter on the field. Additionally, that first rule goes out the window the minute that you're lining up against a bona fide number 1 top 10 wide receiver in the league. And yes, Davante Adams fits that description. I know he's in the twilight, but guess what? Without Puka Nacua, you knew who they were getting the ball to. With all due respect to some of those young cats, we'll get to them here in just a second. Mumfield, Smith, Xavier Smith, like, where'd y'all come from? Maybe the Jags can go get you this offseason to help remodel that wide receiver room. Ultimately, knowing the Jaguars' upcoming schedule, let's flip to December. Garrett Wilson. When Garrett Wilson's on the field, if he's healthy, if he's still on the Jets come December, Travis Hunter should be man-marking him. It's that simple. That's the assignment. And does that mean he's on the outside and he's coming on the field and base down? Yes, it does. But otherwise, like i.e. going up against the Raiders, if Jacoby Myers is still in Las Vegas in 2 weeks' time, I don't think you have to worry about a number 1 wide receiver. I don't know if Brock Bowers is going to even want to play at that point in time for, again, a team that had just 3 first downs today. So he starts at corner. The offense runs through him. That's a lot on a rookie's plate, but he's not a rookie. He's a unicorn. It needs to happen. One more from me, then we'll get to you guys because I see you guys are really lighting up the scoreboard on Twitter as well. Appreciate Boysenberry Burglar for hopping in. He says Jordan Lewis should never be outside. Thank you for that on Twitter. I agree, but also he was your best defender through 6 weeks of the NFL season. I know he got burnt for a touchdown against the Seahawks, and he got burnt for another one today. I think he was also a little banged up after he took some sort of contact and had to leave the field briefly in the first half. He's been your most dependable defender, not named Devin Lloyd. And so if you want to have him on the field, you want to find a way to get him on the field in base downs, I'm not going to question that. What I am going to question, once again, and Hef, you already hit it in the YouTube chat, here are the Jaguars' rushing numbers. This is in terms of carries, pure carries by their running backs. We're going to go from week 7 today back to week 1. against the Rams today between the trio of Travis Etienne, Bashal Tutin, and LaQuint Allen. 13 designed running back carries. I'm not including the jet sweeps. I'm not including the reverses, even though they did go for positive yardage today. 13 carries for the running backs. Against the Seattle Seahawks, 13 carries for the running backs. Okay, you were playing from behind. That's cool. But when you're down 14-0 at the end of the first quarter and you say your MO and your identity is running the football, last I checked, that's 45 minutes to play with. You might as well try to actually maintain time of possession like you did the first 4 weeks of the season and run the ball. Against the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football, the Jaguars running backs combined for 16 designed carries. Trevor Lawrence had 10 carries, some scrambles, some designed. Okay, asterisk, sure. Against the 49ers, 23 carries for the running backs. Against the Houston Texans, a game in which the Jaguars trailed for some, 22 carries. They shouldn't trail, but they were tied. You know what I mean. Against the Cincinnati Bengals, 24 carries for the running backs. And finally, in week 1, that game in which they absolutely established it, 20 carries for that trio, plus 4 carries for now Philadelphia Eagle Tank Bigsby, which gives us 24 designed running back carries in easily the Jaguars' best performance in the run game, that coming in the home opener at Everbank Stadium. And so I say, if Travis Etienne alone is still averaging over 5 yards per carry, use him. Again, I understand you're down 2 touchdowns. I understand the Parker Washington punt return had just been called back. The touchdown that would have been was called back. I understand. But you've got 45 minutes. If that's your identity, Liam Cohen told us all last week how it was no longer going to be about the opposition. It was going to be about us. Well, if it's about the run game and it's about what you believe the bread and butter and the physicality of this team is, then I want to see it. And you did not see it on Sunday because they once again played into, well, the short passing game is an extension of the run game and we're playing from behind. And number 4 idea for me, I would try it. This morning, subscribers to the O'Brien NFL Notebook know this because I was a little hesitant and I made kind of fun of some people online. All fun and games, nothing bullying. Wyatt Milam was inactive today because you typically only have 8 offensive linemen active and up on game day in terms of the 48 jerseys, the 48 active players you can actually have up. And so that is why with Robert Hainsey back from the hamstring injury, Jonah Monheim is his backup. That's why Wyatt Milam was a healthy scratch. But after Patrick McCarry had three penalties today, Chuma Edoga, those back-to-back penalties last week, immediately got pulled for McCarry, who was blowing chunks on the sideline. Yeah, I think I'm ready to see Wyatt Milam. But you want to know why I'm ready to see Wyatt Milam? Because this regime also told us that they would not be afraid to play young guys. They would not be afraid to be bold and to do things that others would maybe question. And so that's why I think you do play Wyatt Milam. And nothing against Patrick McCarry, although he did give up the most pressures, I believe, at PFF ended up crediting. I'll grab those stats for you guys by the end of the program. The most pressures, and only Hainsey was credited with giving up a sack, whatever. I think it would show this team that you mean business because Wyatt Milam was drafted to be a road grader in the run game. And that would show a commitment to we are going to run the ball. We are going to be physical. And by the way, we don't care if we paid you a lot of money. We need whoever the best 5 are. I heard all 3 members of that triumvirate say it time and time again all summer. And so I would like to see that. So I've got a couple more ideas for your Jacksonville Jaguars, how to fix them. But let me hear what you guys have. So let's take a look. See, we've got a couple of you guys are coming in late. Sorry, let freedom ring. I don't know who I was talking to about that point. Yes, Marcel, 13 designed running back carries for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Brian, here's a good question. What happened to Colin Saunders? He played 1 game and has been inactive since. Don't have the answer for that one for you. Outside of, they say they like Mason Smith. They like the progression, even though he's really just playing on 3rd down. Eric Armstead has looked obviously better compared to his first season in Jacksonville because he's playing his natural position inside. Austin Johnson is a run plugger, and I guess it kind of comes down between those 2 players. I think that the idea of we have both, well, not even Emmanuel Ogbah because he really doesn't rotate inside, even though they said he would. Juwan Smoot can rotate inside. And quite frankly, I think that by rotating him inside, you are losing something off the edge and the juice that he can bring there. And so I think you have to reevaluate that. And that's probably why you're going to end up having to bring additional interior defensive line help in, which may result in either releasing someone who you traded, yes, Luke Fortner for and Colin Saunders, or parting ways with somebody else, because you need to create some sort of pressure in the interior besides Eric Armstead. And quite frankly, at least today, the one pressure that I saw Eric Armstead get was only created when Foye Oluokun came flying up the middle of the offensive line and through the offensive line. And so I don't know. I wish I had an answer outside of from what I was told, he's competing every day in practice. He loves football. They love him. Great locker room guy. And just the decision that they made. And of course, they've also had those 2 undrafted free agent rookies in BJ Green and Danny Strigow along the edge active the last 2 weeks. Saw Strigow get in on the 4th down play that Matthew Stafford threw a touchdown on. We're going to get to that here later too. And so that's good that he got some run, because otherwise those 2 guys are only active for special teams depth. And I don't know if that's a really great use of your resources, because maybe you should get them some more defensive snaps since designated pass rushers, but we'll get to that here in a second. Okay, Chris saying the locker room hates Trevor. It's so easy to see how these players react to him year 5, and he's gotten worse. He's going down as the biggest bust in NFL history. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll just let that one be. And look, 16 is he is not absolved, because he missed some easy layups today, but he also hit the ball right in his receiver's hands, and they just square dropped it. And I know that there are many of you, the Trevor haters, that don't want to hear that. But tell me this, who is this? Chris on Twitter, Chris Rockhold. Tell me this, who are you going to replace him with? Just curious. Like, who are you going to go get? Someone said to me today, go get Sam Levitt out of Arizona State. Okay, cool. Tell me how a lot of these rookie quarterbacks have been performing of late. I know Jackson Dart looked pretty good today. It wasn't his fault. The Giants gave up 33 points in the 4th quarter. Dylan Gabriel looked good against whatever is left of the Miami defense. We're also going to hit on them here in just a little bit. That's a big roll of the dice, my friend, for someone who, look, he may not be a top 5 quarterback. He may never be generational, but at the very least, he's like top 15, top 20. That's the floor. You might as well accept it. That's better than 15 other teams have it in the National Football League right now. Let's get to my next point, since Callie Jag just brought it up. Andrew Wingard burnt by the tight end again. Burnt by AJ Barner, last week on that long, deep 60-plus yard completion by Sam Darnold down the sideline. And Sean McVay literally took the same exact play and drew it up for Matthew Stafford to throw a touchdown on 4th and short against an all-out blitz. My solution, in the same vein as maybe Wyatt Milam needs to get some run, I'd give Rayon Lane a little more run, the 6th-round safety out of Navy. They like him in the building. They love the juice. They love the high IQ. He's been in on a couple of 3 safety looks ever since they released Darnell Savage, and then with Eric Murray fighting this lingering neck issue that is a stinger. And so why not? Why not? This was not supposed to be where the Jaguars were at 4-3, from what many of you told me. This is playing with house money, some people believed, or at the very least, you would have believed that back in August. And so why not give the young gun run? I mean, he's as physical as all get out. You say that's what your identity is if you're the triumvirate for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If only in 3 safety packages, I would like to see more of him. I think that Andrew Wingard is a more than capable 3rd safety himself. And I think that in run support and as a box safety and as a demon on special teams, which he's only playing 2 phases this year. I understand they've got a lot of other dudes that can play special teams this year, but I think he's a top 15 special teamer in the league. I digress. His athleticism is getting exposed. It's as simple as that. It's 2 weeks, the same exact play. And sure, now you're going up against a Raiders team that is reeling, and you hope that Chip Kelly doesn't suddenly get it back together in 2 weeks' time and just take that same exact play and run it with some combination of, oh, wait for it, Michael Mayer or Brock Bowers if he's healthy. Yeah, I would like to see Ray Lane a little bit more at the safety position. I don't think the Jaguars will make a move for a safety because they do like Rayon Lane. They've challenged Antonio Johnson. He would play more if Eric Murray's injury is to be prolonged. I don't think it will, but again, I'm not the medical training staff, so I don't want to speculate that. But I do think you need to, again, if you're going to talk about it and say you're going to be bold and you're going to try things out, then I want to see it. And so hopefully the Jacksonville Jaguars top brass feels the same way. One more, since we hit the Colin Saunders thing, actually 2 more, and then we'll hit our first commercial, and then We'll get to more of your questions on the other side. Again, thanks to the nearly 700 and plus of you guys hanging out with us live on a Sunday post-game club edition of Club 904. Appreciate the comments, questions, ideas of how to fix the Jacksonville Jaguars with 2 weeks until their next game of the 2025 season. Number 6, yes, trade for someone on the defensive line. Edge, interior. Listen, Trayvon Walker was easily one of the best players on the field the first month of the season. I didn't even know if he was on the field today. And that's with all due respect to Trayvon. And I know that they were bringing double teams, but at one point in time, I had to look and say, is he on the field? And I understand he's playing with the club hand. I understand that it impedes on his ability to grip, his ability to do the things that make him a pass rusher who has had back-to-back double-digit sack seasons. I get it. But there needs to be somebody besides him in 41. We're right back to where we were. If that means releasing Emmanuel Ogbah, Colin Saunders, Austin Johnson, so be it. I believe personally you need to create more push in the interior, and that'll open up the edge, especially because if you do really believe in those 2 young designated pass rushers in Strigow and BJ Green, they're lighter guys. The Jaguars have raved about having the rugged edge defender in Ogbah and Smoot, and so those two give you a change of pace. But if that's the case, then how about you just plug up the interior and then you can allow for, if only on 3rd and long situations, you bring those 2 fastballs off the edge. So that's where I think interior defensive line is what they should be hunting up. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't think that they're going to be trading for Quinnen Williams, Dexter Lawrence. But hey, if they do, cool. I don't know what they'd have to give up, but it would be cool. Some names that, if you missed Thursday's edition of Club 904, that John Shipley and I threw out there, and especially in light of the Arizona Cardinals' 3rd straight dramatic defeat in the desert, this one at the hands of the Green Bay Packers, I do want to know if Calais Campbell's on the market. And I know that that's a tired take in Jags Twitter. I know it's the easy, low-hanging fruit, but I am curious. By all accounts, this is his final season. And by all accounts, he's moved his young family back to Arizona where he started his career. But he also had a pretty significant chapter here in Jacksonville. And if this is the last dance for Calais Campbell, I'm curious if he would like to help this team make a playoff push in the same vein that acquiring Marcel Darius at the deadline, or in late October, I should say, did for this team in 2017 once upon a time. Some other names that John Shipley and I threw out there: Malik Collins of the Cleveland Browns. He threw out Logan Hall of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe he needs a new change of scenery. I threw out Zach Sealer. I'm going to butcher his last name until the cows come home and he gets traded here. Or someone along the Dolphins defensive line. They got shellacked by Dillon Gabriel and the Cleveland Browns. I know Tyson Campbell scored 7 points, but still, I don't know if Mike McDonald makes it to the end of October. And I think that they're going to piecemeal it and try to make it work. But if that thing continues to go sideways, I believe the Dolphins will be sellers at the trade deadline. And while I think the strength of a mediocre defense is their edge rushers, if any of those cats on the interior, and Sealer did sign a 3-year extension in August, so I don't know if he'd be made available. But if this is a whole new regime coming in is the expectation, then who cares? Throw them away. The Jags will give up a 4th. I don't know. Take on the contract? No, never mind. They're in cap hell next year. Just kidding. Point being, I believe the Jaguars will make a move. And finally, my 7th idea to how to fix the Jacksonville Jaguars ahead of their Week 9 matchup with the Las Vegas Raiders. They will sign a kicker to the practice squad. I think that, and again, I don't want to speak for Cam Little, just like Liam Cohen didn't want to speak for Cam Little. I think that may further the funk that he's in, but that is how things go in the National Football League. They will sign that kicker to the practice squad. I don't think he's made active against the Raiders. They'll probably give Cam 1 more week to, hey, go away, go home to Oklahoma, take a deep breath, go play some golf, and then come back, get your sea legs back under you, see the ball go through the uprights in Las Vegas, and now we're feeling good. Then we can just cut that guy off the practice squad. But it's going to have to happen because you get paid to make kicks, as Doug Peterson once said. And I had questions about the punter too early on in this game, but I thought Logan Cook bounced back after the initial punt of the game, where it was once again hey, when was the last time you kicked it inside the 10-yard line? But he rebounded nicely. And I thought Ross Matisic in the snap was fine in the early weeks of the 2025 season. Even Jeff Lageman had questions about that area of the Jaguars special teams game. And it's just kind of crazy when you think about that. This team, the most successful seasons that they have had questions on special teams. And the seasons in which they have been picking in the top 5 of the NFL draft, their special teams have been their biggest strength. And yet, here we are once more. So one more before we hit break. I would like to thank our friend at the Florida Times Union, Ryan O'Halloran, for this. Folks, let me drop the banner. For those of you watching live, look at that. The sky is falling. The Jaguars, they've turned into a pumpkin. The clock has struck midnight, but they're still in the playoff picture, if only for one more week. The Jaguars, if the season ended today, would be the 7th seed, which means they would face the New England Patriots up at Gillette Stadium because they have the tiebreaker over the Kansas City Chiefs at 4-3. To give you an idea of what that AFC playoff picture looks like, the Colts would have a first round bye, 6-1, first team to 6 wins in the National Football League. The Patriots, the 2nd seed at 5-2. The Broncos, the 3rd seed at 5-2 as well. Then the Pittsburgh Steelers at 4-2. Buffalo, the Chargers, and Jacksonville, your 3 wild card teams, with Kansas City on the outside looking in. It's okay. It's going to be okay, folks. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will get to all of your questions, literally all of the questions. You'll hear from Liam Cohen as well. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Sunday post-game edition of Club 904, syndicated on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 channel.
First Coast on your team.
Sun's out, suits out. That's right, it's summertime in Florida, which means it's time to say goodbye to bulking season and hello to shredding season. But if you're like me, you're having a hard time sculpting and shaping those final pounds. That is until I came and saw my friends over at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics. Right now, everyone is hopping on the Evolve X train, and the only destination is finding your perfect summer body. The technology uses electrical muscle stimulation and radio frequency energy to cause your muscles to contract, all while heating up those deep layers of your skin and tissue to produce collagen and reduce fat. It's like doing 1,000 sit-ups in 30 minutes. No pain, no needles, just results, right? That's right. So leave those winter layers back at the station and come look and feel your best with the team here at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics. Visit them at one of their 2 locations, either over in Ponte Vedra or on the south side.
Welcome inside the Armor Guard exterior and gutter helmet showroom. There's a lot going on, like glass exteriors, replacement windows, and down there we have the retractable screens and awnings, plus hurricane protection. Let's talk more about those gutters, and to do that we bring in Kevin. He's the owner, he's the expert. Why Gutter Helmet?
Well, Gutter Helmet is truly the only maintenance-free product. It lets the trash and debris go on the ground, the water wraps around and goes inside. Unlike filters, they sit on top of the gutters, and the trash and debris build up on top of filters, which requires maintenance. With Gutter Helmet, we're going to keep you off the ladder, the most dangerous thing in your garage. With Gutter Helmet, you'll never clean your gutters again. So get off the ladder and put on the helmet. Gutter Helmet.
Get a free estimate at gutterhelmetofnorthflorida.com. You can also call 904-762-7779 or visit the showroom on St. John's Bluff Road in Jacksonville.
Empower a future, inspire a dream. It's a bold but simple mission for the Jacksonville Police Athletic League, known as Jax PAL. Help the next generation of kids in Jacksonville shape a brighter future. Their after-school programs, teenage leadership programs. There's community outreach.
It's been just an awesome opportunity to be out here with my colleagues and do something good for the community. It's really been an interesting opportunity to just see everybody work together in a way that we don't normally in the office.
And there's sports. There are also ways you can help the next generation with a donation of any kind. Just visit jaxpal.org to get more information. Empower a future, inspire a dream with Jax PAL.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, you can get a free Kinetico reverse osmosis system with a purchase of a Kinetico Premier softener. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Kinetico water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Kinetico dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
There's a saying in sports, you can't win them all, but you can win a lot with good folks on your team. Like that one painter, First Coast. It's tough to beat the sun in Florida, so your home fades. It's tough to beat that HOA when they come calling. Beat the sun, beat the HOA with that one painter, First Coast. And it's a good time to do it. Less rain to work around, and painting in mild temperatures is perfect. After all, the paint bonds to the surface so much better. Give that one painter First Coast a call at 904-417-3557 or look them up at first-coast.thatonepainter.com. Fast estimate, guidance on color and HOA requirements, and the highest quality job you'll find anywhere. Be a big winner in your neighborhood with that one painter First Coast on your team.
Welcome back into a post-game edition of Club 904. Over 860 of you hanging out with us live, close to 100 of you alone on YouTube. We appreciate you hanging out. Brandon and Dory up in Dirty Dina. My friend Louie. Louie, I hope the folks, the Who's up in Whoville, and by Whoville I mean Nashville, are doing okay after Mike Vrabel came and stole Christmas once more. I did get a good chuckle out of some of the signs that I saw outside of Nissan Stadium today. Let's hit some of your questions off YouTube before we get to Liam Cohen. No, he is not live. It's part of his press conference that you may have missed. Want to give you some context. He's somewhere in a plane over the Atlantic right now, so he's not live. But in case you missed it, wanted you guys to hear from the head coach of the Jaguars following a 35-7 loss in London to the Los Angeles Rams. And so, this one was posed to me on our Discord channel. A reminder to subscribe to the O'Brien NFL Notebook. You could sign up right now for a free 7-day trial. That's where I post my scoops. That's where we have our Discord channel. That's where constantly updating you guys on everything I'm hearing around the National Football League and beyond, because I let you guys know about the Gator stuff as it was coming down the pipeline this afternoon. Bye, Billy. Nice knowing you. Cardiac Jag asked, excluding interior defensive line, do you trade for a Dewey Wingard replacement? Like I just said, I don't think they will, because the reality is they have Caleb Ransaw on season-ending IR with the Lisfranc foot injury. But the thought is he would then eventually be your safety of the future. And so they were always high on Dewey being kind of that bridge safety. And so then Ransaw would take over. Now, Hef noted on the YouTube chat, and he noted this in our Discord as well, they have 6 box safeties, 6 strong safeties, and 0 free safeties. I would say that yes, that's accurate. It's not wrong. I think they just have 6 very physical safeties. But to that point, I would think Rayon Lane gives you the best chance to make plays on the ball. Antonio Johnson has been well documented, played the most snaps of any safety in the slot in his final season of college ball at A&M. And so I think he fits the mold of that third safety they want to crowd the box and get after it and run support. And the reason he hasn't come in for Andrew Wingard is because Eric Murray's been banged up. And so Antonio Johnson has either been the third safety in 3 safety looks, or he has stepped into Eric Murray's shoes whenever he needs him to. A couple of you guys asked about Yannick Ngakoue. Would the Jaguars be interested in signing him? Heck, Christian Wilkins is still on the street, folks. And I know he's a little crazy and he likes to kiss people on the head, but he did play college ball with Trevor, and they were pretty good. And apparently they're friends. So maybe that'll give everybody kind of the motivation they need if they couldn't trade for, Calais Campbell and make everybody in Jacksonville happy. Jermaine Johnson, another name that was just floated in the YouTube chat. That's an interesting one. Again, I am fascinated to see what the New York Jets do, knowing that they are really not tied to most of that roster because they did not draft them. And the reality that defenses that are a core defense that is creating turnovers by the dozen, typically it's a 3-year shelf life. We saw it in Jacksonville from 17 to 19. You saw it in Chicago from 18 to 20. I did not expect this with the New York Jets because of how young that core was, but it's here, it's reality. And so maybe he's made available. Maybe Quinnen Williams is made available. I'm not so sure. DTWD 420. If you finish 6-4, you have a chance to get the 6 or the 7 seed. Absolutely. If you get to 10 wins, you're in the dance. And quite frankly, I think you can find 6 wins, if only on paper, because you face the Tennessee Titans twice. You face the aforementioned New York Jets. You have the Raiders coming out of the bye. And I know nothing is a guarantee. This team is going to find a way to steal one from somebody. The Los Angeles Chargers didn't look as great as everyone in the national media keeps telling me they look. The Arizona Cardinals have lost 3 in a row. Have I not gotten you over the hill now? That like it's going to be okay, Jacksonville? You just played 3 of the best teams in the National Football League. I know no one wants to give Seattle the credit. No one wants to give Sam Darnold the credit. No one wants to give bionic mutant Matthew Stafford the real credit that he is leading the NFL in passing yards at 38 years old, but it is the reality. And so we need to get over it. They just played 3 great teams. I'm including the Chiefs in that because they're about to be great with the addition of Rashee Rice back from suspension. And so that's 1 and 2. You're 1 and 2 through those arguably the 3 best teams you've faced. And that matchup with Houston, John Shipley and I talked about this on Thursday's pod. Depending on what happens in Seattle Monday night, Houston could be thinking about Cabo on November, whatever day that is. I think it's like the 13th or the 9th, excuse me. Like they could be thinking about Cabo, or they could be right back in the playoff mix. And if so, that's going to be a tough one. But guess what? That's what you signed up to do. Play tough football in the National Football League. Robert asked about Shelby Harris potentially being a trade target for the Jaguars. I've heard the name floated. I've heard maybe locker room interesting cat. Don't know if he's intangibly rich. Maybe he is. Maybe that's just from the person that I heard it from. So file that one away. Matt Jones says, that was about the Antonio for Dewey. Why can't you play Antonio for Dewey? It's because of Eric Murray. Hef also adds, why is Josh Hines-Allen off the field in 3-4 base downs? I agree. I did see that a little bit, Hef. I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I can certainly ask you. I can ask it for you. I will ask it next time Anthony Campanelli is made available, which again, by the way, Liam Cohen will be made available on Zoom tomorrow afternoon after the Jaguars arrive back from London late tonight. And then we will have limited player availability, again, virtual on Tuesday morning. And then the players are off for their bye week. And subscribers to the O'Brien NFL Notebook already knew this. A lot of folks in that locker room have said, and that was prior to the Seattle game, the body needs a break. And that's why what you're about to hear from Liam Cohen is very, very interesting. He was asked if this was just a continuation of the self-inflicted wounds. He was also asked about that idea of physicality. I want you guys to have a listen to this one.
Sure did. It was everything we said we didn't want to do did occur. And so starts with me, got to figure it out. Got a long flight home and some days off to do that.
How tough was it just to try to get anything going sort of in the passing game to get into a rhythm?
Yeah. I mean, precisely when I talked about what it took to win this game and did a whole film, my meeting yesterday, it was everything about staying on schedule, being able to get multiple runs off back to back so that we can run it, stay on schedule, stay balanced, and we didn't do any of that again.
How distressing is it for you when you laid it all out over the week that you have to avoid ABCD and it just still pops up again?
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating, but you just like everybody else in there, you got to look inward first. Like, what am I doing as the head football coach that's not clear right now? How am I communicating these things? How are we practicing these things? That's what I've got to look at, right? I mean, I've got to look at the whole thing ultimately, but not going to stand up here and blame these players. It starts with me.
You talked about earlier that you kind of knew what this team's identity was earlier in the season, physical.
Yeah.
Have you lost a little bit of that?
I mean, I definitely think that some of the some of those things have hurt us, like being over aggressive and being amped up in the last couple of weeks has actually been a negative in some ways in terms of the penalties and some of the mistakes we've made. You wouldn't have guessed that we were here for a week prepared, ready to go play in this atmosphere by looking at it in terms of the way we started the game. I'm very proud of our defense specifically in the second half of the game, like played their tails off. Obviously had a couple moments where, we got the one obviously thrown over our heads again in a short yardage situation, but they gave us some stops and some opportunities in the second half. And we drove it and did some things with it. It's just ultimately didn't execute once we crossed the 50. Typically, we weren't being able to execute. So, definitely frustrating.
So I wrote about this at the Mo Bryan NFL Notebook a few weeks ago. In the lead up to the Seattle Seahawks matchup following the Monday Night Football game on Wednesday, the Jaguars had essentially a Saturday walkthrough on Wednesday, a padded lighter practice Thursday, and then another walkthrough Friday, another walkthrough Saturday. And multiple players in the locker room said to me then, and now we look back after these 2 back-to-back losses, that they appreciated Liam doing that because they felt their bodies so exhausted through the first 5 weeks of the season. Now, for some of you, that's a panic. You're like, oh my God, they got beat up through 5 weeks. They had more padded practices in the first 5 weeks of the NFL season. And I understand the CBA has a limit on how many you can have, but in terms of like the limit, like they were there, not for the whole season, but for that juncture of time, comparatively to the last 3 years. And I saw someone in the YouTube comment mention that any of the funk from the Balky Peterson era, if it still exists, we got to get them out. This isn't funk. It's the reality that these players are physically being pushed in a way that they were not pushed the last 3+ years. And so maybe a player that's going to fit this ecosystem, but physically it is a change. And so I know the gentlemen in that locker room appreciate that Liam Cohen has largely said, like, after Tuesday, off on your bye week, you go. Not going to keep him till 6:00 on Thursday like someone else did, which is fine. Because obviously there are things to work on. And I saw some other folks in the Jacksonville media saying they'd prefer to keep these players and make them work a whole week as opposed to have a bye week. I am not going to be an old man yelling at a cloud like some of those gentlemen, though. I'm going to sit here and tell you they need to get away. And I think that getting away will allow Liam Cohen and his coaching staff to approach this through a different lens. And I think for the players, it'll make them realize, do you really want this? Are you that hungry? Do you love football that much? And I believe that will shine through when all is said and done. Couple of comments in the YouTube chat. Thank you, Dan, who noted that not only did the Jaguars have a stretch of 3 very physical teams in the Chiefs, the Seahawks, and now the Rams, they played the 49ers before that. And I know it was a banged up Niners squad. And they went 2-2 in that 4-game stretch. Back in August, you would have signed up for it in a heartbeat. And I know, that's not the standard. That's a loser mentality. No, it's reality. Someone else just commented that Mac Jones looks awesome on Sunday Night Football. So I'm sure George Kittle looks great in his return, whoever commented that. And I'm sure that defense, even without Fred Warner, looks pretty darn good because Robert Saleh is a really good coach and because they've had a standard of their own that the Jaguars competed with and beat. So just file that away. A couple of you noted to sign Justin Simmons, the free safety. Not a bad idea. Forgot he was even still available on the open market. Maybe there's a reason for that, but maybe that's an avenue, especially if Eric Murray really is banged up with that neck injury. Someone else commented, Zay Jones, a 40-yard catch. Friend of the pod forever. Y'all know. Zay's my friend. We always root for Isaiah. He's a good human being. So don't you forget about that. All right, let's hit a couple more off of the Twitter sphere before I get to a couple last few off YouTube, and then we get on out of here. Again, appreciate almost 1,000 of you guys are live right now on a Sunday night after a Jaguars 35-7 loss to hang out with us here in Club 904. We so appreciate it. So a couple of notes. This one is from our friend Daniel Griffiths, who will probably join us on the show at some point in the next few weeks because we'll head inside the data bank. Here are the numbers, folks. 4 drops against the Rams, 13 penalties, 7 sacks allowed, 11 quarterback hits allowed. And again, some of the PFF numbers have also now been sent to me, and they'll be made much more widespread here soon. But according to pass blocking, Ezra Cleveland had the highest number. Walker and Anton had about the same. The only sack that was credited to an offensive lineman was to Robert Hainsey. And so at least from what I can see, and again, I'll go back and we'll look through it, and Daniel will post it tomorrow. And again, this is PFF, so not that it's gospel. Thank you, Doug Peterson. The reality is that if those sacks are then attributed to Trevor Lawrence, then there's going to be a whole referendum there. Daniel also noted that this was Trevor's lowest time to throw of the season at 2.37 seconds, which is about number 1 in the National Football League. And it speaks to the formidable front the Rams have, but it also speaks to questions about, is Trevor holding on to the ball too long? Is he actually getting through his progressions that are tied to his footwork? Is he getting happy feet back there? Nate Tice posted this, and I love it. The Rams have already used more 13 personnel. That's 1 running back, 3 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. They used more personnel. This was midway through the second quarter, folks. They used more personnel today against the Jags, 8 snaps, than they did in the 2021 through 2024 seasons combined. We knew when Sean McVay drafted Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, it was for a reason. He wanted to get those tight ends involved, and with no Puka Nacua, he said no problem. Brent Martineau not able to join us today. Of course, again, he is across the pond. Be sure to check out Action Sports Jacks for all of he and Stuart Weber's coverage from London. And so we'll end with Brent's comments. Quote, I still can't get over this today for the Jags. 11 possessions, 7 trips into scoring position, 8 into the opponent's territory. So 7 into the red zone, 7 total points, 0 turnovers. Trevor Lawrence did not turn the ball over. No one fumbled the ball. And somehow, some way, they finished with just 1 touchdown to show for it on the day. I don't know. Maybe that's a sad way to end the show. No to memes. Did the Campbell trade divide the locker room? I don't think so. Subscribe to the O'Brien NFL Notebook. Maybe I'll get to the bottom of that, but I can assure you no. Here's a good one to end on. Thank you, Cool. Travis, wide receiver 1, gets Strange back healthy. The offense could get back on track. In case you missed it Thursday, John Shipley said maybe the Jags should trade for Josh Oliver because the Vikings lost again, and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is always looking for draft picks, and he's somehow always looking to trade with the Jaguars. So maybe that's a short-term fix. Johnny Munt left a little bit to be desired today. I think Hunter Long is a more than capable 4-week, 5-week replacement for Brenton Strange, but maybe that's me. I've been on that train for quite some time. DJ Dell, this is a good one to end on. Not taking anything away from the Rams. They're a good football team. It's as simple as that. Again, in case you missed it off the top, and of course, this whole episode will be available on demand. Tell your friends to listen back. And if they're trying to avoid Jaguars content after the 35-7 loss, maybe this is one that can help them jumpstart, refresh, look ahead to the bye week. My 7 steps to fix the Jaguars heading into the second half of the 2025 season. Number 1, the offense runs through Travis Hunter. Number 2, Travis Hunter starts at corner. Both can exist as long as you are ensuring that he is following the number 1 wide receiver, even if he's not in base downs with 2 corners and 3 off-ball linebackers. Number 3, run the ball. For the love of God, Travis Etienne's averaging over 5 yards a carry. Number 4, try Wyatt Milam for Patrick McCarry at right guard. Number 5, give Rayon Lane some run in lieu of Dewey Wingard or in 3 safety looks. Number 6, trade for someone along the defensive line, anyone, even if it means you have to cut somebody. And number 7, sign a kicker, keep him on the practice squad. Don't activate him just yet. Give Cam Little one more chance. We don't want to mess with his head. And then, yes, then maybe you'd have to activate that kicker because you got to make your kicks. And this is a team that's in a playoff race, whether you believe it or not. Well said, Dell. 7 steps, 1 step for each point the Jaguars scored against the Los Angeles Rams. We appreciate you hanging out with us here in Club 904, the over 1,000 of you live. We do this each and every Sunday at 9:04 p.m. We also join you Tuesdays and Thursdays on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 channel following Brent and Austin. They, of course, are on Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This upcoming Tuesday, I will have Ben Arthur from Fox Sports, who covers the AFC South, specifically the Tennessee Titans. Going to check in. We're going to look at the landscape of the South, as well as what the heck is happening with former Jags assistant Mike McCoy, now the interim head coach up there where Louis is in Nash Vegas. Again, all episodes of Club 904 are available on demand on the Action Sports Jacks podcast network, as well as YouTube. So go on, check them out, have some fun. The episode with Shipley from Thursday, little evergreen because, we look ahead to that that November 2nd, almost said 7th, that November 2nd trade deadline. Appreciate all the comments, all the ideas. Let's keep the conversation going. This has been Club 904.